G'day all, welcome back to Dad vs Son, and we're going to start a playthrough with some Panzer Grenadier from Avalanche Press, and we're going to play the Kokoda campaign. And starting off, we're going to use the introductory game, and we have 3 introductory scenarios, which we're going to play first before we get into the advanced rules and everything else. So this first one, scenario 1, is the Trail to Gorari, day 1, which happens on 9th of November 1942. So quite late into the campaign, when the Australian Imperial Forces, the AIF, had made it to New Guinea, and it wasn't just militia. So this one uses map 35, as you can see, and map 35 is supposed to be positioned landscape rather than portrait, with the 35 on the bottom. So this side would be north, south, west, east at the bottom. But with this vassal module, I can only seem to flip it north-south. I can't seem to flip it t'other way. So we'll see how this goes anyway. So as you can see, this is all a jungle, which is horrible. We've got what they call trails. I'll probably call it tracks. We've got a stream, and we have a village here. So the Japanese start out as the village people, and they get to set up in the village or within 1 hex of the village, and that's why I put the little Japanese flags there, just to outline that. They start with 7 infantry platoons, 2 engineer platoons, 2 captains, and 2 lieutenants, which again were drawn randomly. So that's that. So they've got a 10 captain, a 9 captain, an 11 lieutenant, and a 10 lieutenant. None of them have any modifiers on them. The Australians have a captain, 2 lieutenants, and they also have a sergeant. They're all 8s, and this captain is the only one which has a morale modifier of 1. Again, they were all chosen randomly. The Australians have 6 infantry platoons and 3 heavy machine gun platoons. Let's just move him down if I can. Oh, no. I'm trying to remember how to move these up and down. I can't remember. So let's just take these off. So that they're all set up the same. Righto, so the Australians can come on turn 1 from the north edge of the board here, but everything is jungle and hills and everything else, which is really shitty, and jungle is a minimum of 2 movement points, and then, you know, an extra to go up or down the contours and so forth. So the idea for this game is both sides lose an initiative point for every 2-step losses. Both sides start with an initiative of 3, and both sides' morale is 8-8. So that's that. So we've got 1 VP per step loss for both sides, 3 VP for hex 0613 here, which is a crossroad on the track, and then 1 VP for all the surrounding hexes. So that's why I've set that out like that. We start at 0800 and we finish at 1200, 16 turns, and that is that. Victory conditions, a draw is anything less than a 3 VP change. Minor victory 3 to 6, more VP, and a major 7 plus VP. So that is that. So as people take these, I'll just drag over a little either Japanese or Australian flag and stick it on the appropriate one and that sort of thing, and go from there. Right. I think that's about it. So, 9th of November 1942, with the advance of 16th Brigade stalled by the strong Japanese position at Ovari, 25th Brigade was ordered to move forward in support. They would travel along back trails before swinging back to the main trail at Gorari, in the rear of the Japanese position. Things went well until the middle of the afternoon, when the lead battalion, the 2nd of the 25th, turned to move back towards the main path. So here's the main path, of course, track to Gorari, and we went, oh, diddly bop, shit, and we've got to do something about it. So we've done the forces, we've done the initiative, we've done the morale. There's no off-board artillery for this whatsoever. It says that the following rule may be used to permit easier play and learning. Optional, ignore all elevation lines, but we're not going to worry about that. So that is that. So the conclusion of this is the Australian forces were unable to reach the main track before darkness fell, but remained confident they could be in a position to cut off the Japanese position at Ovari during the following day. So, special rules for this campaign, this module. Jungle, blah, 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 is as per the terrain effects chart. Note that a leader in a jungle hex can only act as a leader to friendly units and lower ranking leaders that are in the same hex with him. So this makes it a little bit more difficult. And a leader who is not in a jungle hex cannot act as a leader to friendly units or lower ranking leaders in jungle hexes adjacent to him. So even if we're here, say, we can't talk to this guy or this guy, let's make sure, because it's jungle. But these tracks and trails are also jungle, so we can't talk to anybody here or here either. So the only ones that can do anything at the moment would be within the village. The village people can talk to each other. So, either of these captains could get this lieutenant activated and stuff like that. But this lieutenant is by himself. The Australians come on in turn 1 or at any other turn that they want. So my idea is to bring on this first company here and diddly bop down the track and set up basically a holding area, and then bring the others on subsequently from there. Because again, entering this first hex, because we're not on anything, I'm counting that as 2 to start with, and the machine guns only have a movement allowance of 2. So once they're on this for the first turn, then they can sort of diddly bop along. Bringing these others in either above or below, again, they'd come on as using their full movement, but then they'd still have to use another 2 to come to here, which would be their full movement, or 2 to come to here for their full, well, 3 actually, 3 to come to here, because we've got a contour line, which would be their 1 hex movement because of the machine gunners. I did think about just placing all the machine gunners together, but I want the firepower for each company, and that's why I've done that. And my lead company having the lieutenant and the sergeant together, so that gives me at least one leader with them if they get bumped off. So that's jungle. Says light jungle is light green with sparse palm trees. Um, so in fact, this is light jungle in here. So light green with sparse palm trees in the village, sort of thing. So that's fine. The village, orange roofed huts. Anybody that's in the village is automatically considered to be dug in. Trails, tracks, brown lines. We get the one movement allowance extra if we start on the track and continue the whole way along the track. Creek, blue lines, not going to affect us. It only affects mechanized units entering it and all that. Fields we don't have, and slopes, as we know, we've got the elevation. So that is that. The advanced rules, which we're not really looking at the moment until we've finished these 3 introductory scenarios, unless it comes up into the special rules for each scenario, would be hidden units and leaders, disorientation, armored fighting vehicles, and delusion, which we'll go into when we get that way. The grand plan is, because this actually has a campaign game in it, is once these 3 introductories are over, we'll look at starting the actual campaign. So that way, you know, we can name our little officers and hopefully improve their abilities and win medals and all that sort of stuff. So once we get up to that sort of point, we'll look at that sort of thing. So let's get into it. So first turn, 0800. Both sides have initiative of 3, so we'll just roll up a die. Australia first, a 1. Japanese, a 1. So that would be a special, would be an event if that is in the... I think it actually is. Let's have a look. It's in the rules. Optional rules. Looks good. We're using the 4th edition rule. Looks solo play and stuff. I'm just not sure if there's the events thing in this. It's not always in everything. Is there one for events? Let me just have a look. That I've got the PDF of the rules here, which I downloaded all this again off Panzer Grenadier headquarters, which is great. Random event. 1. Aircraft sometimes experience scenarios, special rules, or through random. See optional rules. Okay, well, let's just come down with special rules, credits. So we don't have a random event table. Let's get rid of that and just have a look for table. No. So it's not in this, which is a bit sucky. What am I after? Extension documentation. No, that's special stuff. Game charts. I don't think it has. No, it's got direct anti-tank bombardment, assault, terrain. I don't think it's on the back of terrain chart. Else, terrain effects, terrain notes, terrain notes. No. So I might have to try and dig it out later or something. We'll see what happens. So what happens now then is the question. Let's have a look at initiative. Because I can't remember which way it goes. I think it might go with the Japanese. Rolls one, blah, blah, blah. Whoever wins the roll takes the da-da-da-da-da-da. Well, that tells me nothing. Readiness to act, higher initiative, more likely to act first. Nah. That means nothing. Tanks, got nothing. Determination, that's what I wanted. Play with the highest wins. Roll again in the event of a tie. Add the current initiative to this result as well. Okay. So again, Australia 5, Japanese 4. So with adding the 3, it's still a difference of 1. So halving it is half, rounded up is 1. So we get 1. We'll activate the lieutenant and his stack. They'll move, and they simply move onto the track. And that is their 2 movement points all done. And we go over to the Japanese. And I think we're going to get the lieutenant here to come on down diddly bop as fast as possible. He's starting on the track. So, and again, you're supposed to move all these individually. I'm not worried about that until they get a bit closer together and so forth, just to move it up. So he gets his additional movement point and then goes 1, 2, and 3 and is done. So then we go on to the next, back to Australia. Like I said, I could bring this guy on here. I could bring this guy on here. I suppose at least then they are getting ready to rock and roll. So we'll bring those onto there. That's their full movement allowance. And then we can do these guys. So the captain here, or the captain here, could activate the lieutenant as well because they're in light jungle rather than jungle. So I'm going to activate this captain, who is going to activate this lieutenant as well. So the captain's going to move. They start in the village. So the first thing they're going to do is move to here, which is going to cost them 2 because they're not starting on the trail, the track. They're starting in the village. So as far as I'm concerned, it costs them 2 to get there. They've got a movement point allowance of 3, so they can come down to here. The lieutenant then comes down 1 to move through the village, 2, 3, and he's diddly bopping along through the bundu with the captain. And we've got our last Australian. They activate and they will come on here. Doesn't really matter to him, but yeah, so they're there. Which leaves the Japanese next. This captain here, I don't really think there's much sense in moving him anywhere at the moment. I could move him to here, but that's going to cost 1, and then he can't really go any further because we've only got 2 movement points. Or, they could jump up here into the jungle, but to get back onto the track, it's still going to cost them 2 no matter what. So I think they'll just pass. Everybody's done their stuff, and we will call it clear for that. Clear the markers. Call that the end of the first turn, and we go up to the 0815 turn, and we look at initiative again, 3 for each. Australia first, a 5, the Japanese, a 4, again a difference of 1, even adding the 3 to on to each. So therefore it's 1 activation for Australia again, and we will activate the lieutenant with his stack. They are on the track, so they get their additional movement point, and then they can move 2 more, and that's it because of the machine gun. If without the machine gun, they could have moved 1 more, but that's the way I'm going about it. So we go to the Japanese. We're going to activate the lieutenant. Already on the track, they have 3 movement allowance, so they'll go 1 for their additional, and then go 1, 2, and 3. So they're on the 3 VP space. These are all 1 VP spaces. That's why I've marked them that way. I can't remember if I said that before because I'm a dickhead. But they're there, and like I said, I'll mark them with a little flag, say that they've got them at the moment. So they hold these, and then I will simply put it over here and go to 4 victory points. So at the moment, they have a minor victory. Yay! We're back to Australia. So the captain here will activate, and they will simply move onto the trail there. That's their 2 movement point allowance, and they're done. And then the captain here will activate. He can't talk to anybody else because he's in jungle now, and he has a movement allowance of 3 for his infantry, so they get their additional movement point, and then 1, 2, 3. We're back to Australia, and these guys will move down onto the trail there, and then they're ready to diddly bop along well later. And then we have the Japanese. The lieutenant now is on the trail, so they get their 1 extra movement allowance, and then go 1, 2, 3. The Australians have got nothing to do and pass, and that leaves the captain with his engineers, and they will move straight onto the trail now, and that is that. So they have now finished. Everybody is done, and we can call it quits on that turn. We can clear the markers. We can move this up now, and we've finished the 800 and 815, and we come on to the 830 turn, 0830 turn when we come back. Like I said, I'm going to do this in small increments, so you can let me know where I'm screwing up, because I'm bound to. But I hope you enjoy when we get into it a little bit more. Like I said, the plan is for the Japanese to try and block off access to the crossroads, and the Australians to punch through and take the crossroads. So take care, be good, and I'll catch you next time. Bye for now.